Let me start with something that might sting a little. Your 3-year product roadmap. It's not just ambitious anymore, it's becoming obsolete. And if you're still defending it in quarterly reviews, you are likely behind. In a world where foundational AI models evolve weekly, sometimes overnight, your carefully planned feature list has become a liability rather than a strategy. When you have built your roadmap on fixed assumptions and dependencies, it is vulnerable to change. And we are living in a time of change, which means change should be your main assumption. In this video, I'm showing you how to stop building fragile, feature driven plans and start operating like a strategic leader who thrives in uncertainty. We're talking about a shift to fluid, capability based strategy, one that doesn't break when the ground moves. Let's talk about why the traditional roadmap is collapsing. For years, long term planning worked because the environment was relatively stable. Technology improved incrementally, markets evolved predictably. You could map out features, estimate timelines, and mostly trust that your assumptions would hold. This is no longer the case. Now we're living in an era of 10 times intelligence leaps. A single model update can replace months of engineering work, unlock entirely new use cases, or make your planned feature irrelevant overnight. And yet, many teams are still operating as if nothing has changed. They're committing to features years in advance. They're locking in architectures based on today's constraints. They're optimizing for delivery certainty in a world defined by uncertainty. And here is where it gets dangerous, because once you commit to a long term plan, you trigger one of the most powerful biases in product management, the sunk cost fallacy. You've already invested time, you've aligned stakeholders, you've built momentum. So when a new breakthrough comes along, that invalidates your plan. You hesitate, you rationalize, you say things like, well, we've already come this far. Or worse, let's just finish what we started. And just like that, you're shipping something obsolete, not because you didn't know better, but because your system made it hard to change. This is the mindset shift you need to make. You are no longer building toward a fixed destination, you are navigating a moving target, and your job isn't to predict the future perfectly, it's to stay aligned when it unfolds. So, if fixed roadmaps don't work anymore, what replaces them? You stop anchoring your strategy in features and start anchoring it in problems. Because here's the key insight: features expire, problems persist. Your users' pain points don't disappear just because the underlying technology changes. They might get solved differently, faster, cheaper, better, but the core need, that stays. So instead of saying, we're going to build feature X using API Y, you start saying we're solving problem Z, no matter what technology makes it possible. This is where capability themes come in. Think of them as stable strategic anchors. Instead of defining your roadmap as a list of features, you define it as a set of evolving capabilities your product must deliver. For example, do not say, build AI powered summarization using Model A. Instead, say, enable users to quickly extract key insights from complex information. See the difference? The second one survives model changes, it survives API changes, it even survives paradigm shifts because it's tied to value, not implementation. Now, here's the challenge. Stakeholders love certainty. They want timelines, they want deliverables, they want to know exactly what they're getting. So, how do you pitch a fluid approach without losing credibility? You can reframe the conversation and say, we're not reducing clarity, we're increasing adaptability. And you show them how fast the landscape is changing, how rigid plans create wasted investment, how a capability based roadmap actually reduces risk. And most importantly, you commit to outcomes, not outputs, because strategic leaders don't promise features, they promise impact. Now, let's get practical, because mindset alone isn't enough. If your architecture can't adapt, your strategy doesn't matter. This is where most teams get stuck. They say they want flexibility, but they build systems that lock them into a single provider, a single model, a single way of doing things, and then they're trapped. So here's the principle you need to adopt: radical swappability. Your system should be designed so that changing core intelligence components is not a crisis, it's routine. That starts with a modular middleware layer. Instead of your product calling a specific model, you introduce an abstraction layer, a translation layer, one that standardizes inputs and outputs. So your application doesn't care whether it's talking to a cutting edge proprietary model, a fine tuned open source model, or something that hasn't even been released yet. This is what a model agnostic framework looks like. And when it's done right, switching models doesn't take months, it takes hours. But it doesn't stop at the back end. Your UI and UX need to be flexible too, because different models have different characteristics like latency, accuracy, cost, modality. If your interface assumes one specific behavior, you're limiting your ability to evolve. So instead, you design for variability. You create experiences that can adapt to faster or slower responses, different output formats, changing levels of confidence. Because the truth is, the best model today won't be the best model next week, and your product needs to be ready for that. Next, let's talk about cadence, because even if your strategy is flexible and your architecture is modular, if your decision making speed is slow, you still lose. Traditional product cycles rely on quarterly planning, monthly reviews, and long feedback loops. For most products, that's too slow, so you replace that with something new. Intelligence audits. Every 2 weeks minimum, these are focused sessions where your team asks, what changed? What can we do now that we couldn't do before? What just became irrelevant? And this isn't theoretical. You actually test things. You prototype rapidly. You take a new model release, and within days, you validate. Does this solve a problem we previously couldn't solve? Does it do it better, cheaper, faster? If yes, you pivot. If no, you stay the course. But here's the key: you don't guess, you measure. You build internal benchmarks, specific tests tied to your core capabilities, because not every advancement matters to your product. But the ones that do, they matter immediately. Now we get to the final shift, and this could be the hardest one. You have to embrace the idea that your product is never done, ever. You are operating in permanent beta. And that's not a weakness, it's a competitive advantage. Your roadmap becomes a living document, constantly evolving, constantly reacting to the frontier of machine learning. And your culture has to evolve with it, because in this world, progress isn't just about what you build, it's about what you're willing to unbuild. You have to celebrate deleting code, removing features, letting go of things that no longer make sense, because holding on to it is what slows you down. And speed, adaptation speed, is everything now. So here's how you maintain your edge: you stay close to the frontier, you test relentlessly, you design for change, and you align around problems, not solutions. And most importantly, you stop trying to control the future and start learning faster than everyone else. So here is the question I will leave you with. Are you still managing a roadmap, or are you leading a system that can survive change? Because the role of a product manager is evolving. You're not just a planner anymore, you're not just a delivery manager, you're a navigator in a constantly shifting landscape. And the teams that win won't be the ones with the best plans, they'll be the ones who adapt the fastest. If this resonated and you're serious about becoming a more strategic, influential product leader, this is exactly what we build inside PM Influence Lab. And if you want more frameworks like this, subscribe and stay close.